In this episode of Home Elevator 411 video blog, I wanted to discuss a couple of questions that I often get asked by homeowners. The first one is, what do I need to provide you in my home to prepare for an elevator installation? And the second one, how can I plan for a future elevator? And the two have something to do with each other, so I thought that we'd look at both today. For purposes of descripting this image is excellent. I find that it helps me see what's behind the wall and in front of the wall to help understand the product a bit better. So I will be referring to it. You can find that on our planning guide online. So let's look at the first question first. What do I need to provide you in my home to prepare for a home elevator? One of the most important things is the hoistway, or it can also be called a shaft. I'll refer to it as a hoistway because we do that in all of our marketing materials. So the hoistway, it's what encompasses the elevator and all of its components and keeps them away from anybody being able to access them. And this is important because the hoistway should only be accessed by a licensed mechanic when they have to repair or maintain the elevator. There are a couple of ways that you can build your hoistway. The most important thing is it has to be square and plumb, and it has to have one load-bearing wall to install the equipment. So if I refer to this drawing, you see that the load-bearing wall has to carry the rails and all of the equipment that will guide the elevator up and down. So a couple of ways to do this. This one is stacked plywood. So this is looking up the shaft. They have stacked plywood to create that load-bearing wall. And this one, what they did is they used vertical columns. So these vertical columns here, that can be achieved by using a variety of wood. You can get to the details from your sales associate, and we will therefore adhere the rails onto there. So this will run the whole length of the elevator with service. A couple things to keep in mind. This load-bearing wall has to be certified and checked by a structural engineer to ensure that it can carry the weight of the elevator and its occupants. And a little side note, our standard weight capacity for our residential elevators is 1,000 pounds for the hydraulic and 950 pounds for our winding drum. Those are the two different types of systems that Federal Elevator offers. These two photographs help to give you a better idea of what the hoistway looks like when it's completely finished before we come in. So I can't tell which is a load-bearing wall, but one of these is. So you have to take my word for it. And this is what it will look like. And this photograph is a installation in progress, so you're able to see the ceiling hasn't been installed. You can see that the load-bearing wall is at the back, so this is a type E elevator, and that is what the mechanism looks like. So a glimpse into an elevator installation. Now, the second thing that you have to keep in mind is the machine room. Or controller location. And this is to do with the two different types of elevators that we have. The machine room is required for the roped hydraulic, and controller location is for the winding drum, as this is considered an machine room-less, or MRL. If you hear that acronym, that's what it stands for. So the machine room in my drawing over here is located in the lowest landing, and that's exactly where we like to see that, because it has to be in the lowest landing that the elevator services, closest to the elevator as possible. And there are four things that go into the machine room. Your pump unit, which houses the oil that will be pushed into the cylinder, and that's about like a 2 by 2 by 2. The controller, which is kind of like, you can think of it as the elevator brain, and the two electrical disconnects required for the power of the elevator. So I wanted to show you that most people think that you need a dedicated machine room. We've actually installed it underneath the stairs, so you could see that. The most important thing to keep in mind is the ability to have the option to access both the controller and the pump unit very easily, so the technician, when they are servicing or repairing your elevator at a future date. So it has to be in a closed room. A lot of people like to put it in the in their laundry room or electrical room in the basement, it's a good fit there. So something to keep in mind. If you're doing a winding drum, the only thing that you won't need is the pump unit. You will still have a place where you'll have to have your controller and your 2 electrical disconnects. So that's something for you to think about. And another thing to keep in mind, which is important when you're designing your home elevator, is your pit. And your pit is located on the lowest landing, and it's a depression on the lowest landing to help provide room for the elevator. So there's some mechanisms underneath here which you cannot see, and also for the rails. So it's important to have this pit. It has to be 8 inches minimum. So less than that is not acceptable. We can go higher in a pit depth, but 8 inches is what you have to keep in mind. So I also get asked the question, the second part of this video blog will discuss, what about future planning? What do I have to keep in mind? Is it possible to install an elevator at a later time, or the things that I can do to help make the installation go a lot smoother when I'm ready? And yes, absolutely. There's a couple things. So the first one is being a pit. So I need 8 inches on the lowest landing, and that has to be concrete pad because it'll support a lot of the weight of the elevator. Before you install the elevator, you can also put a false floor on top of it so that nobody trips over it when it's exposed. So when it's time for the elevator installation, then you have your pit ready to go. The secondly is you can plan for your hoistway, and you can do this by designing stacked closets. So on every level of that the elevator is going to service, there's going to be a nice large closet. When it comes time to install the elevator, you would pop off the floor and install your elevator. Your hoistway is already done. If you want to take it a step further, you could actually create your load-bearing wall. And that will help you immensely because all those materials will have been taken into account. I just would recommend that you ensure that you've got your specs right. There are different types of elevators, so you just want to make sure that if you're going to create your load-bearing wall, that you're going to do so on the right wall that you need. And then one other thing to keep in mind is the electrical power. A way to plan for this is run your electrical power close to the hoistway so that when it comes time to install your elevator, it's easy to be able to take that power and divert it to the areas needed for the elevator, but you also need it on each landing for the hall station, so that's how you call the elevator. I hope that was helpful. I know that planning an elevator is a lot of work, and that's why I decided to create this blog to give you information, and there is always more information available. This is my company, and you can always come and visit us if you're in the area in Mississauga. We have functioning elevators where all of the options are on display, and you can see the things like the machine room, the pump, and the controller. You can also check out our website where we have lots of online resources available, or you can call us and we can answer your question as best as possible. Thank you so much for your time and for watching my video blog today.